All right, hello YouTube, and welcome back. So we're going to be talking about House of the Dragon episode 2 in today's stream, and I'm going to say it just right off the bat. This is going to be a spoiler review, not only for episode 2, but also for things that may happen in future episodes. So again, anyone rewatching this back on, either the stream back over or joining the stream, again, we will be talking spoilers. If you do not want that, I would click off. But the major thing I want to talk about right off the bat is I think episode 2 was much better than episode 1. I really liked episode 1, and I really love this episode. This episode didn't have a lot of action going on. It didn't have too much going on. It was a lot of conversations, a lot of things that made the early seasons of Game of Thrones really interesting and really awesome. And I think they handled this really well. Whereas I was someone that was concerned on the pace of the show. How quickly are we going to go through events, and the ability for them to make up scenes to fit in between all of these events we know that happen in Fire and Blood. How are you, Matthew? How'd you like episode 2 if you've seen it? But the big thing I want to talk about, what were my big complaints from episode 1? We didn't get a lot of Corlys. We didn't get a lot of Rhaenys. Now, I will say we still didn't get a lot of Rhaenys. We really got one major scene of Rhaenys kind of having a conversation. We got really one with her and Rhaenyra, which was my favorite scene of the entire episode. But we got a lot of, again, Rhaenyra, but we got a lot of Corlys Velaryon. A lot of Corlys Velaryon right now. We're seeing more of what is his motivations, who he is as a character, and what drives him, which is something that I was really hoping we were going to see at least coming up in the next few episodes. I think from a writing standpoint, I think they did a really good job. I think Matthew talks about how there's a half a year jump from episode 1 to episode 2. I think they handled it really well, right? Because Fire and Blood is interesting in the concept of, in Fire and Blood, we really will do an event, especially leading up to the events of A Dance with Dragons. We do an event, and then we'll skip, and then we'll have another event happen. I think they're doing a great job of making that work in House of the Dragon. Hi, how are you, Liam? How did you like episode 2? What were your thoughts if you've seen it so far? But getting back to what I was kind of talking about, Corlys Velaryon to me was the standout of the episode, right? I think him, Viserys, and Rhaenyra all were kind of your three big players in this one. Alicent as well, getting more developed. And I think what I liked about this episode is kind of the reveal at the end of the episode, because we have this episode where you have this scene where it's Alicent and Rhaenyra, and they're interacting, kind of talking about how Alicent's mother died and Rhaenyra's mother died, and they're in the Sept. And we know, because of the scene prior to this, they do a great job of showing Alicent with Viserys. The scene before, where Viserys is kind of asking for Alicent's advice and on Rhaenyra and Viserys, because they've grown very distant after Rhaenyra's mother dies, which is something that's very human. I think loss is dealt with in a number of different ways, and withdrawal, I guess, from people is definitely a way of coping with it. I can definitely relate to the way Rhaenyra felt in the situation and the way she kind of acts. So I really liked that idea. Liam says it was good. We got more dialogue with characters. Agreed. I really liked that element. Whereas I think the first episode, they had to do a lot of introducing, had to get a little bit more into the action. We had to be hooking the audience in a bit more. Episode 2 was allowed to breathe. It was allowed to have a lot more dialogue scenes with a lot more different characters, like Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, like Corlys. Rhaenys didn't really talk in the scene, but with Viserys, a lot of small council meetings. I believe we had, 3 or 4, I think, in this entire episode, which was awesome. To me, everything surrounding Alicent and how it's kind of getting back on track, and how we're talking about their relationship is so tragic, because Alicent is trying to be. It's very hard to distinguish, because we know it's to a degree Alicent is actually kind of manipulating Rhaenyra into talking to Viserys, because again, Alicent is with Viserys. And it hurts more because Rhaenyra, you can see, is really she is someone that has not processed her grief, right? Where, it's 6 months down the road and she's still someone that really, you can tell she hasn't had a chance to grieve, where she hasn't had someone to kind of help her through it. And that scene with her and Alicent, it feels like Rhaenyra's first time being able to talk to someone about it, because she hasn't talked to her father. We know Alicent's one of her closer friends, and that idea that Alicent is in the background also kind of trying to get Rhaenyra to talk to Viserys because that's what Viserys wants. It's something that, you keep in the back of your mind, that this kind of friendship is not going to go the way Rhaenyra is going to hope it's going to go. Hi, Michael Cribb. How are you? How did you like episode 2? That scene with Rhaenyra and the Sept was really good. I really felt her emotion when she cried. Agreed. I loved that scene. Do you think they will get older actors for Laena and Laenor? I think they have to, especially with Laena. I think they have to. Laenor, I don't think so. Liam, I'm not sure how familiar you are with what happens with Laenor, so I don't think so. They might. I don't know. Okay, yes, you see the age gap in the trailer, so they do get okay. I knew they had to for Laena, but Laenor I wasn't so sure, because what ends up happening with Laenor, you could maybe get away with it because of how his character kind of goes out, but I don't know. So getting back to kind of where I was going with that scene is very important to how Rhaenyra's reaction gets towards the end of the episode, because we know as we see Rhaenyra, she's someone that does not like the idea for a multitude of reasons, that she doesn't want Viserys to remarry. Not only does she feel awkward about him remarrying another woman that's going to be considered her mother or something, which is something that's very difficult. I mean, think about it as people in real life, right? That's something that children struggle with their parents when they get divorced or they lose a parent. Think about it in 6 months. I mean, Rhaenyra is still torn up about her mother. It's still something that's very apparent in front, and to see Viserys having to remarry this quickly, mixed in with the fact that it's also going to be Alicent, and Alicent kind of never really talks to Rhaenyra about any of this and all of that. It almost feels, especially from Rhaenyra, where she would feel betrayed. Because it takes the one person that Rhaenyra really feels like she can open up to and talk to, is now going to become her mother, but then there's a lot of things that we're not sure what Rhaenyra knows, and it's one of those things where, how awkward would that make you feel, right? Like say, think about in your personal life, your closest friend, right, out of nowhere ends up marrying your mom or your dad. Like, that is something that's so difficult, because it makes everything with Rhaenyra and Alicent leading up to that seem very fluky, because it seems like, okay, if you're in Rhaenyra's mind, was Alicent just doing this to get close to me, just so she could, get more status and marry my father? And you really feel the emotional weight that Rhaenyra has. She takes this is a tough episode for her, and this is definitely not going to be the toughest episode for her, but it's a rough one for her, and I really feel bad for her, especially since she is my favorite character within this show and the Targaryens as a whole. It's really difficult to see. Do you think we will see Mushroom or Eustace? I don't think we'll see Mushroom. I think there's a chance for Eustace. I just don't know when they're going to change the actors, but you see the younger Rhaenyra actor with the older Laenor actor, so I guess we're going to get another year gap. Yeah, probably. Hey, just finished it. How'd you like it, Jim? How are you as well? I'm going to watch it tomorrow. It's way too late now. That's fair. I don't blame you on that. I got off work at 8 o'clock, so right when the episode came out, tried to get to it as quick as possible so that I could, then review the episode and do a stream for you guys, because I want to do this after every episode. Hi, Ella. How are you? And also, you just finished the episode. How did you like it? Personally, like I said in the stream, I thought it was a very big improvement on episode 2, even though I really liked episode 1. It was a big improvement off of episode 1. Episode 2 to me was really good. I think we saw a lot more of the elements that really drew me into the universe of Game of Thrones when I was first watching the show. So that was really good. So Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship, I think, is something that I really enjoyed in this episode, and how we're going to see it kind of break down and even more. So I think a really great setup episode that also did a lot to build characters, right? It's 4:26 a.m. Oh my god, you need to go to bed. You need to go to bed. That's all I'm going to say. But so that's that element I really liked. So let's get off that element. Let's go to my favorite scene of the episode. My favorite scene of the episode was Rhaenys. And Rhaenys, again, really makes me feel, she gives me the Queen of Thorns feel, right? She really gives me that feel of Olenna in Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. And I really like that idea, right? I really like how she's very witty. She's very straightforward to the point, right? Where she's like basically saying, Rhaenyra, all of these people, right, are telling you that they are going to follow you, and they're not really being honest with you. A lot of these people are not going to follow you, right? All these people are trying to elevate themselves to more of a power. The only way, Rhaenyra, people are going to follow you is if you are married to someone else that has a claim. That's basically what Rhaenys is telling her, and she's giving her own experiences in what, you know, happened with her and how Viserys got to be king over her, even though she was older, like she was higher in the succession, but because she was a woman, she gets held back. And that's something that I think is really important for Rhaenyra's character as well, for what we're going to see later on in the show. What do you guys think of the intro? I thought it was kind of weird. Maybe think I was watching a vampire show with the blood, and I didn't like how they used. I agreed. I thought they were going to use kind of a different theme and create their own, but I get why they did it, because they wanted to tie it in with Game of Thrones. So I understand why they did it, but I was hoping they were going to do something different. Do we have an age range for Alicent? I think she's around the same age as Rhaenyra. I think she's like 15, 16-ish maybe. I know it's something in that range because I did a Maester Conspiracy video, and when that is mentioned, because that's a big point in the Maester Conspiracy theory, they didn't really do a ton of it in this episode, which is something I was a little disappointed on. They didn't really lean into it. But let me look up Alicent Hightower age. So I think she is married at 18, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking up the wiki for her life, but I think it says 18. Is it 15? That's what I thought. I thought it was 15 or 16, but something that I like Googled said something like 18. Okay, this is taking forever to load. We're gonna say 18. We're gonna say 18. Or 15. Sorry, we're gonna say 15. It's 10:26 for you, so you're about an hour ahead of me. Rhaenys gives me more of a Cersei vibe, which BTW, did you Cersei is actually the first queen ruler of Westeros to sit the Iron Throne? LOL. That's not true, actually, because I'm not gonna say why, Matthew, but I will say a certain character that is a woman does sit the Iron Throne. However short time it will be, someone does. So I'm just gonna stay away from the spoilers there. My biggest problem was this episode was it felt like there was a scene missing where Viserys decides to marry Alicent. I get that, but I think the thing here is we've gotten all these scenes with Viserys connecting with Rhaenys, with Alicent, and I think the Laena scene is exactly there to point out the differences between Laena and Alicent. Alicent is, let's say she is 15, right? She is at this point a woman that is flowered, grown. By our today's standards, she's not a woman, but by standards back then, she's very beautiful. She's described as being probably the prettiest in court. And Alicent is someone that is actively trying to, I guess, relate to Viserys and be there for him. And Laena is very much younger. She's being trained completely on what to say by her parents. You understand why Viserys would want Alicent. Maybe there could have been a contemplation scene with why Viserys goes for Alicent, but I think it's justified enough in Viserys's mind that, okay, she's a high tower, so she has good birth. He likes her. I think it makes sense from that regard. If he's going to have to remarry, might as well be somebody that he actually does enjoy. Also, hi, Billy Bob. I know, right? I felt like that we should have got a scene between Otto and Viserys. I do agree. So this is the thing that we were just talking. So I was just talking about this, but I understand why they did it, because they wanted the big reveal at the end, right? To be, I mean, how do I want to phrase this? They wanted the big reveal at the end to be a surprise and a really good part for them to end the episode on, right? But at the same time, I do feel like they developed it enough. Now, for me, I would have liked to have seen Otto Hightower. Like, I would have liked to have seen Otto Hightower and, like, the Grand Maester say, oh, maybe Alicent is the better way to go. Because in the book, Fire and Blood, right, the only two options that are kind of given to him is Laena, and then, who, again, I think she I don't know if she's 12 in Fire and Blood, but I know she's younger, right? Just exactly how the show did it, right? And the idea here is that the only option given to Viserys, the king, is a 12-year-old girl. Now, I get it. There's a lot of things that make sense of why it would be a good relationship, but the idea here is that is actually, I don't think in Fire and Blood it is Corlys that is the one that says, hey, you know, Laena should be it. I think the Maester is the one that does it, if I'm not mistaken in the book. I know the Maester is the one that says, hey, Laenor and Rhaenyra should be married, which he does in the show as well. We get a little bit of a hint of that. But I do think there was something kind of missing there. Rhaenyra. So I'm assuming you're trying to say Rhaenys, I'm assuming, is the Cersei parallel. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. I just think the portrayal for me reminds me a lot of Olenna, but I definitely see where you mean with that. No, I mean when Viserys has a talk with daughter about it being okay with him marrying Corlys' daughter, and then it cuts to him announce that he's marrying us, and I feel like they're So yeah, no, I understand what you're saying there. I completely understand where you're coming from there, Billy Bob. But I understand why they also did it that way. But I do agree. I think there should have probably been a scene there. The next episode is called Second on His Name. But how can that happen so soon? I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're maybe playing on the idea that they're going with, like, Daemon and Corlys. I think they're just trying to play on the idea that Corlys and Daemon are going to have a big influence on the next episode, I think is what they're trying to do. I kind of found that funny. That made it look like Viserys completely fucked over Corlys. I mean, to be fair, the way that it's handled, right, in the show versus the book, it's not this whole idea where, oh, Viserys is kind of backed into a corner with Corlys Velaryon basically, you know, saying, you know, you do this, or, you know, I'm basically gonna, you know, flip out. It doesn't really make sense in that, because when they're debating who Viserys should name, it's kind of this council meeting, right? And all these people are proposed, and Viserys ends up choosing Alicent. In the show, it's kind of this idea that Viserys is going to marry Laena. Everyone's kind of telling him to marry Laena, and then he doesn't tell anyone and just kind of goes, yeah, I'm going to marry Alicent instead. So in the show version, he kind of fucked Corlys, because he made Corlys, A, look like an idiot. He, 2, spurned Corlys pretty much for another time, because Rhaenys should have been the queen. So at that point, Corlys is just like, you couldn't have told me in private and we actually have a conversation that you were going to marry someone else. And then the other fact that I think even pisses Corlys off even more is that he chooses another one of the people in the small council that on this small council pretty much is controlling the king, in Otto, right? Otto is kind of the guy that's always there for everything. So to me, I understand why Cloris feels that way. It's just kind of the way that they interpreted how that works. Fire and Blood. I don't know who you're trying to say there, Billy Bob. Are you trying to say Rhaenyra or Rhaenys? I died hearing the intro theme. That's it. Good night. Well, yeah, I didn't really. I really wish they would have done a different theme there. But yeah, I get you, Jeffrey, on that. Yeah, or a scene between him and Alicent after he had a talk with Billy Bob. We got to figure out what you're trying to say here. Is it Rhaenys or Rhaenyra? Oh, okay, Billy Bob. So you're trying to say Rhaenyra. Okay. Um. Also, I'm saying Viserys' daughter is the parallel to Cersei later on. Remember? Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Rhaenyra later on very much is like Cersei, where Cersei does a lot of things that she believes is in the best interest for her children, and it ends up fucking a lot of people over. And two, it hurts her position as well. And because of the certain things that end up happening, Rhaenyra ends up kind of going a different route. So I definitely get you on that. I did like the smug smile Otto had when he named Alicent. Brought memories of Littlefinger back when he had. Yes. So I agree. Like, Otto Hightower is to me a character that I very much dislike. I am not a big fan of Otto Hightower. I wasn't a big fan of him in Fire and Blood, and that's because of the position I end up taking later on in the series and kind of his actions. But I respect him as a player. He is probably the best player of the game at this current time. We see how much power he has at this point, where Viserys almost completely relies on him as a character. Liam, when will we see Aemond? Probably. Okay, so I would probably say episode 4 or 5. I would say episode 4 or 5 maybe is the first time we see Aemond. Gotta be honest, they cucked us on that cliffhanger ending. I thought that was a really. I mean, it's a way of getting you back to watch the show, but I actually really liked the way they ended it. I think they could have just ended it with when Rhaenyra walks out of the small council room when Alicent is named kind of the person that's going to be marrying Viserys. I think I would have ended it there. That is where I think I would have ended it. But getting back to kind of some other things I wanted to talk about. The dragons. I think the dragons looked really good in the episode. I really liked the way they did Craxes, or the Bloodworm. I think he looked really good. I liked, okay, Dragonstone and the entire sequence that goes down there, in my opinion, looked beautiful. It's one of my favorite scenic like shots of just Dragonstone and the shots there in probably this show so far. And also in Game of Thrones. Like, it's up there as one of my favorites. I also thought so Liam, my problem and something that I was worried about going into episode 2 was how quickly were they going to make the story, right? Because there's not actually a lot of events that actually happen in between episode 1's events and like the ending of maybe the beginning of like episode 3 events. Or not episode 3, but let's say like Alicent getting married, having children, and all that. So, but to me, I really like the way that they were able to add scenes, create tension, have those character dramas where things don't feel rushed. Because in the book, you can do it a lot better and have it make sense because it's more of a world history book than actually a show like material type thing. So I think they did a really great job on kind of spreading things out, because next episode we'll have a marriage type thing. Maybe we'll see Alicent get pregnant by the end of episode 3. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I think they've done a really good job. I understand them making it dramatic, but Vish should have had at least told Corlys before he told the council he would marry Alicent. I agree. I think that makes more sense. logically, because here's the thing. If you're Viserys, right, and really we're going to talk about what was already talked about, right? This conversation already was had on should Viserys marry Laena? And the answer is, okay, well, Laena is the best choice when it comes to women that are Valyrian, that are Targaryen. It makes the most sense, right? Now, the next idea would be, okay, how important are the Velaryons, right? You've already kind of pissed them off once with Rhaenys not becoming queen, or Laenor becoming king, whichever. They're already kind of, it seems like, out of everyone in the small council, the most hostile to you, right? So if you deny this marriage, you're going to piss them off even more. The idea that, one, Viserys doesn't marry Laena is quite dumb when he's talking about all of the ideas of, oh, I am the king, it's my duty, but then he goes for his own personal choices and not what would have helped the realm, right? Because he already has the Hightowers in his pocket, right? He's already has them in his pocket for the most part. The Velaryons are someone that he really needs to secure them, and they're the richest house at this moment. They have the biggest fleet at the moment. Tying their two houses together with a marriage into the actual royal line would really go a long way, right? Also, I will say, Matthew, it is Viserys' wedding that comes first. But yeah, but then spurring them and even making it even worse, like not even like having a conversation saying, like, Corlys, Laena's, she's a little too young for me. And I genuinely have feelings for Alicent, right? I want to go that direction instead. Telling him that way maybe would have gone a better way, but the way he does it, where he openly basically disgraces Corlys, because the entire small council knew that Corlys wanted this marriage, to just kind of shove it in his face is a really bad way. So I agree. I think there probably should have been a scene there. But yeah. Also, I'm assuming, Water, that there was it's kind of like the Sansa Littlefinger thing where Littlefinger gets killed. I think we're supposed to think that there was a scene off screen because Otto kind of already knew. Like, why else would Alicent be there? So I think Otto already knew before he announced it. In the preview in the next episode, Aegon is being born. Okay, so yeah, I could definitely, that's my thing. I think they're going a little too fast, if you know my honest opinion there. But that makes sense. Laena looks super young. Agreed. And Rhaenyra getting married. Okay, all right, interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, because those are actions where I think we could focus a lot on what's happening in the Stepstones, that we don't need as much King's Landing, because the first two episodes have basically only been King's Landing. I think episode 3, you'd have a good break, and you could do some of the Stepstone things with Daemon and Corlys Velaryon, and then spice in, like, Alicent and Viserys' wedding, and then maybe by the end of it, you say, okay, Alicent says she's pregnant, and then you have a time skip, and then you could have Rhaenyra's wedding, Aegon being born, all that stuff. The pacing each episode has been perfect. Agreed. I think they've done a fantastic job on that. BTW, do you think the Celtigars should get some love in the story since they are a Valyrian house? I think they will in the future, but I think right now, with trying to introduce a lot of people to the show, for such a minor house that really wasn't in Game of Thrones, I think they're probably going to stick clear of them for a little while at least. They said she was 12. Yeah, she was very young. Yeah, I know. I felt as uncomfortable as Ferris about the whole thing. Agreed. I also thought she looked a little younger than 12, to be honest, Water, but, Also, Velaryon thinking they're older than House Targaryen. Sure, buddy. That's why your family never had dragons. Yeah. I don't know. With that being said, though, like, they still do have the legitimate idea that they should be in the main royal line. Well, we're fixing to have a massive time skip. New actresses for Alicent and Rhaenyra. So wait, is that happening in episode 3? Like, do we have a confirmation that's happening in episode 3 that we're gonna have a massive time skip for both of them? Because that doesn't really make sense for me, right? Like, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me for it to be in episode 3. I would say episode 4, and it would make the most sense. I know already you mentioned this, but I feel like we should have gotten more scenes about the match between. Agreed. Yeah, we definitely, I think, should have. Patty has done the best job for both the episodes. I agreed. I think the young Rhaenyra actress has done a fantastic job of facial acting, right? Showing, not telling. It's a really big idea in film that I think we've gotten away from. That Rhaenyra doesn't have to say, "I'm sad," right? Where you can see the pain in her face, you can see her crying. We don't need this whole idea of when Alicent is announced as the one that's gonna marry Viserys. Rhaenyra doesn't say a word. You see how much that hurts her, and I love that that's something that is done really well in this episode. Viserys' actor does a great job, or Patty does it as well. Okay, it's happening this season. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to happen this season. It has to, right? Is Helaena older or younger than Aemond? I think she is younger. I think she's the third child, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look up. Let's look that up. That's a good question. If it'll load. I've been having trouble loading things while on the stream. I don't know the leak scene from episode 3 that I won't mention. Oh, okay. All right. If Alicent is having a kid, I think at least 2 years, but would Corlys wait a while to put that? Yeah. So this is my problem, right, with that whole idea and why I don't like the idea of her having a kid by the end of episode 3. I think it should make more sense that the episode should focus on other events in Westeros outside of King's Landing. Because King's Landing, yes, is very important at this point. It's where most of our drama is going to happen. But now that you have Daemon and Corlys Velaryon in another place, that's a huge a thing going on right now, and a lot of emphasis was drawn on it in episode 2 that we should focus a lot of our time there. And I think with other ideas, like I've discussed, where we really only need a couple scenes in King's Landing. We really need Viserys and Alicent's wedding. We need to see how Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship continues to get worse. We need to see the conversation of who Rhaenyra is going to marry. We need to see a lot of things kind of need to happen before we start having kids and we start aging up. I think that idea should happen. I really like the show so far. Agreed. I really do as well. I am still a little scared about things in the future, how fast we're going to get through certain things, but yeah. Almost this entire show is going to take place in King's Landing and Dragonstone. I think for season 1, that is correct. Season 1 is almost completely going to take place in King's Landing and Dragonstone. We really won't visit many other places outside of the Stepstones and Driftmark, but that's about it. I guess I could get by that. Definitely moving fast with time jumps. Agreed. I think episode 3 should not take a big step. I guess the next episode is going to be about the Stepstones, Alicent and Viserys' marriage. Yeah, that's what I think it should be about. And I think what we need to see in episode 3, this is a must need, right? Because there's a certain thing that's going to happen, but we need more Rhaenyra and Criston Cole. We need to see them interact way more for something that's a big payoff to happen. So I'm expecting episode 3 to get more of Criston Cole and Rhaenyra. I think that is going to be a main focus of the next episode, because Rhaenyra now doesn't have Alicent, so she's going to be looking to have someone else to talk to, and that could be Criston Cole, and that would lead to what we may see in the coming episodes. I think they should bring Dorne into the story, maybe introduce the Martells during or after the war for the Stepstones. Would be nice to see what's happening in Dorne. I think that would be cool, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I do like the bonding scenes between Viserys and Rhaenyra. Surprised to see in 22. Agreed. There's things that I really like about the show that a lot of shows are not doing and movies are not doing, where you're actually having character growth. These are not perfect characters. These aren't perfect people. They are people that are growing and actively making, where was it going with that? Or the actual characters making bad mistakes or making bad decisions, but they're trying to grow as characters. I was waiting for Rhaenys' horns to come out. Her scene with Rhaenyra reminded me so much of the Hound scene with Sansa trying to speak sense to Way. Yeah, agreed. I think those are great team. Also, Ashley, you'll be happy to know I'm doing a video off of your suggestion you did on the Ned and Ashara. I can't speak right now. Ned and Ashara video last week. I'm going to be talking about Brandon Stark and Ashara, that kind of theory that you introduced. I didn't get to Rob's parentage in that video. I'm going to probably save that for maybe not this week, but next week. But I really liked that idea, so I ended up doing a video on that. Dorne, not part of the Six Kingdoms. Agreed. Kristen Cole is going to be your confidant now. Yeah, I think that has to happen. We just have to have more episodes between them for something to happen. Harwin will be her BFF. Yeah. I feel like we need more Rhaenys and Corlys and more Rhaenys and Viserys. I agree. Like, we haven't seen Rhaenys and Corlys interact as a couple, really. It's only been as, like, either they're off together alone or they're talking to some character, but it's mostly Corlys talking. We really need to see more of that, and I agree with you on that, Matthew. I really want to see more Rhaenys. We've only seen a little bit of her, and I want to see more. Have we seen Harwin yet? No. They need to capitalize Grand Maester Conspiracy in the show as well. I don't think they're going that route. Just based on a lot of the scenes we've gotten, they've kind of like teased it, but they really haven't gone. Like, there's so many like situations already that they've really not included that are big ideas in the Grand Maester Conspiracy. I'm gonna probably do a video at the end of season 1 talking about if it talks about it at all and going in depth, but I don't think they're gonna do that. I know that's why it'd be nice to see them, because they are their own kingdom. That is true. Yep, Ashley, I hope you like those. Hope you like those videos. You should do a video about the most cursed couples. I could. There's a lot of them. There are a lot. That'd be a tough like top 10 type video to do. Is Rhaenys going to be a part of the war as a dragon rider? I'm not going to disclose that information because it could spoil some things, but maybe. Wink, wink. Maybe. Crab Feeder looks interesting. He does look interesting. I think he'll be a good little mid-season 1, I guess, mini-boss. I don't think so. Been a while since I read Fire and Blood. So, there is a certain part. Well, I don't know. I guess, what war are you talking about, Matthew? Is, I guess, how that question is defined. How... It depends how you're asking that question. That's all I'll say. But, yeah. So, let's see. Anything else I want to talk about about the episode or speculating? Because we'll do another stream probably Wednesday talking about episode 3 and more of the speculation. We kind of talked about it a little bit in this episode. But giving more of my in-depth, I will say, I would say my predictions were kind of spot on. I thought they were going to progress a little faster just based upon the trailers and how things were going. But I'm really happy that they slowed it down. Oh, then Matthew, I would say no. Probably not. Just finished episode 2. Young Wolf, how did you like it? I thought it was really good. I think it was better than episode 1. Yeah, I know how the story ends. Yeah. Yeah. Miss Arya is definitely Melisandre. Yeah. The ending was spoiled by Joffrey, LOL. Yeah. Joffrey do be that guy. But, okay, let me think. Any other scenes I want to talk about? We didn't see a lot of Daemon in this episode, which I thought was fine because we had a lot of him in episode 1 that I think he was well established in episode 1 for me. I didn't think we needed to see too much of him going into episode 2, which, again, paved way for other conversations and characters to develop, I liked that idea. Daemon giving up the egg to Rhaenyra. I was also wrong about that. So So I don't remember who. Matthew, was it you that commented like the last stream we did that Daemon steals the egg from King's Landing, and that was correct. I thought it was Dragonstone because that's where most of the dragons are. I just assumed he would have stolen it from there, but yes, that was interesting. The crab is the Crab King the real Euron in disguise? He is. If I remember, Mysaria has a very bad fate. No comment. What do you think of the look of the crab feeder? I think the crab feeder looks really cool. I think he looks very interesting. That's all I'll say. I enjoyed watching this, knowing the ending of the story. Kind of fun to watch the wife guess what. Agreed. So Jim, my favorite thing in the world, like it genuinely makes me happy, is someone that has never watched Game of Thrones and watching for a bunch of key things to happen in the show Game of Thrones, where Ned dies, when the Red Wedding happens, and when Jon dies in season 5. Though watching people's reactions that are very invested in the story, watching them see those things happen, it brings me so much joy. Like, you know, it's kind of sick in that way because you know it's just heartbreaking, but for that, because you know how awesome that is that you can't ever see the Red Wedding happen again, or you can't ever reread the Red Wedding. That feeling you're never going to get again with that event. To see somebody else have that for the first time is amazing. So, also they should make Rhaenys a part in the war. So I agree. I'd love to see that. I guess I need to reread Fire and Blood. I know you like Goblin, but I don't. Hey, Billy Bob, you know what? Here's what I'll say. If you really don't like Fire and Bloods, just skip to the good parts. Aegon the Conqueror, do his part. Do Maegor the Cruel, and do like the rebellion there. Skip Jaehaerys' whole reign. Go to like the very back end of it, and then go to the Dance of Dragons. There you go. I'm watching with my parents. Okay, fair enough. That's a good one. I used to watch Game of Thrones, especially the later seasons, with my dad every single time. I like people who have read Fire and Blood still can be surprised since the book has a lot. Yes, that is my thing that I'm really looking forward to. There's a couple instances that I'm really excited to see how they go with it. That's fair enough, Matthew, on the look. And the grand, yeah. See, they did like a subtle like wink to the camera, like, oh yeah, the Maesters may have something, you know, that they're doing. But my thing is, it's like at this point, it's like we're 2 episodes in, and you've missed a lot of opportunities that you could have gone that route. So I feel like it's just something that, you know, they just kind of threw in to throw in. I don't know what my dad just screamed about, and like I can hear him in like the living room. I don't know if he's watching sports or what, but I have a mixed feelings about the intro. I love the song, and it's iconic, but it seems, yeah, agreed. I don't like the intro. I thought it was okay, and I understand why they did it, but I didn't really like it. Not really for me, since show canon is never canon to me. That's fair. Also, guys, I am going to be kind of changing the background because, again, this background really has nothing to do with the channel. I took your guys' advice. I'm really disappointed. Okay, I'm disappointed for one thing about something. So I ended up getting the, like, I wouldn't call them, I guess, banners, right, of like 3 of the houses. So I got the Starks, the Targaryens, and the Lannisters. They didn't, like, they had a 3-pack, right? And it kind of fit, like, the perfect size because it would basically go, like, right along the back. And then I was going to put shelves in so I could put, like, the YouTube thing I made, like, the plaque thing. And then I was going to put some of my, like, Lord of the Rings. I'd have, like, my book set for Song of Ice and Fire back here. I was going to do some things like that, but, yeah. I'm really disappointed because the 4-pack, or they didn't really have like individuals with the Baratheons. So if I got another Baratheon, if I got a Baratheon banner, it would like look different. The style would be different, and then it'd also probably be like a different size. So I thought I'd just go with those 3 and just kind of be done with it. But yeah. So hopefully I'm gonna have that done like 2 weeks. Hopefully the background will be a bit different. I thought it was weird that they brought Maester Melos to the meeting with Daemon. They left Viserys behind because they thought there might be a fight. It seems like he shouldn't have been brought. Yeah, agreed. That was kind of a weird kind of situation as well. Oh, in episode 1, fucked up by having a werewood tree in King's Landing. There was a heart tree in King's Landing, but not werewood. Agreed. Do you think Vhagar will be as big as Balerion, or almost as kind of felt like they hinted at with the scene with Viserys? I think so. I think Vhagar. It's very important the way that they do Vhagar, right? Because we don't actually see Balerion, right? From a show point of view, we don't know how big Balerion is, because in the book, Balerion's bigger than Vhagar. Like it's not really close, right? But I think Vhagar should look big, because here's the thing. Vhagar is bigger than all the rest of the dragons at this point. Vhagar is the oldest dragon. So they need to make an emphasis that Vhagar just looks vastly bigger than even like Caraxes or any of the other dragons. In A World of Ice and Fire, doesn't it say somewhere that in Castle Rock there is a werewood? That maybe? It's been a while since I've read A World of Ice and Fire, but that's possible. Hold on. I'm looking at. I'm trying to see. I'm gonna go down to the family tree real quick. So. Yeah, so actually I was wrong there. Helena, I guess, is the second child of Alicent and Viserys. And then it's Aemon third, and then Daeron fourth. Okay. Black Ops 1, Mew, and Mewtwo. What's the third one? That is Tom Brady. That's my boy Tom. Hold on. That's my boy Tom Brady, the GOAT. I'll probably move those like up my wall so they won't be in backgrounds anymore, but yeah. Why is Vhagar wandering around in Essos? I don't know. I thought that was kind of odd as well, but you know. I'm sure they'll do Vhagar right. They've done good with making the other dragons. Agreed. I think they did a really good job with the dragons for the most part as well. I really was impressed by the way Caraxes looked. I said that at the beginning of the episode. I think Rhaenyra's dragon looked really good as well. But yeah, I don't know. I was a little worried about the dragons because I think the first trailer they didn't look that great, but they definitely did some polishing that you can tell. So I'm glad the way that kind of turned out. So, but I'm gonna end this stream here. It was a good one. We got a nice little talking about the idea of episode kind of 2. I'm gonna let it sit. I'll probably do a recording maybe tonight. I have another review up for you guys tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And then we're gonna have two like a Song of Ice and Fire theory videos this week. We'll have a Lord of the Rings video. We're gonna have a Rings of Power video coming out probably about 2 days before Rings of Power. Probably going to do a Rings of Power stream when it comes out. And then Wednesday, we're going to be doing a kind of preview for episode 3. Let me answer the rest of your questions, and I'm going to end stream. Speaking of Balerion, I was watching a clip that got Viserys talking about the throne room with the skeletons of the dragons. It made me realize how disappointed I was that we didn't see his full skeleton. Agreed. That would have been awesome in the throne room. Weren't the Targaryens scared that someone... Yes. That is a big thing, right? So in Jaehaerys' reign, right, we see that Daenerys' dragons that end up being, well, I guess it's a theory, but the eggs that where Daenerys' eggs come from, right, how they even get to Essos, is because of they kind of get quote-unquote stolen, basically, and they are brought into Essos, and they are kind of eventually sold. And Jaehaerys makes a very, like, we almost have a war started because of these dragon eggs. The Targaryens, you guys have to remember that the Targaryens, their main way of power and the reason that they are on top of the world is because of the dragons, right? Like, the dragons are just a game changer. You can have 10,000 men against you and you only have 500, but if you have a dragon, you are favored to win. Right, so the Targaryens are very much built upon the dragons. And we see once the dragons are gone, they're very much susceptible to rebellions, like we'll see quite later with the Blackfires and eventually Robert's Rebellion. Plot hole in the show is that there's living dragon eggs on Dragonstone. Agreed. So that was my thing. Is I'm pretty sure in Fire and Blood, Daemon gets an egg from Dragonstone. I'm like, I felt like I remember reading that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that was where he got them. But in the show, they went a different route. But I agree with you on that, Billy Bob. But thank you guys all for joining.